so happy we alive.
I think that he, by the way, yesterday would have been Carl's 70th birthday.
Oh, really?
So happy birthday, Carl. And he, I think, would have been absolutely thrilled to see what we're seeing right now with these new images of Titan, the gooey, icy moon, and also last time we spoke we didn't even mention the Mars rovers, which are still working and rolling around those two salty deserts on Mars and finding new stuff and proving that Mars used to be soaking wet and a potential habitat, and that's still going on too. So it's definitely, like I said, been a good year in the solar system, even though it's a shitty year on Earth. Let's all leave quick, or just send Cheney and Bush off, and we'll keep the rest of us here on Earth.
David, sorry for that. You grew up in the Northeast, is that true? I mean,
yeah, I grew up in Wellesley, the suburb of Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah, middle class, pretty waspy town. We were like the Jews in town.
I have that image of the Boston album, the Boston CD or album with the the flying saucer guitar sign off.
That's pretty much what it was like.
And Earth exploding in the background.
Boston. No, actually, you know who is from Boston, who was a local band at one point, is Aerosmith, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, right.
I think they at one point played high school dances and shit.
Really?
The Boston suburbs, yeah.
Do you mind, I know your father is a physician and your mother is a mathematician, is that right?
Yeah, well, my mom really was, because they're both retired now, but they both still are pretty much what they are. My mom is a math teacher, a very good teacher of, she taught at a community college for years, and was really gifted at teaching math to, especially I think to people that were not really inclined to seek mathematical knowledge, but needed some of it too. That's sort of her specialty, you know, which such a head case, I'm sure. And his specialty, though, as you know, Patrick, is drugs of abuse, and he's taken some stands that you know, got him in hot water to some extent in the academy, which of course means he is onto something. You know, and basically he's been involved in the drug reform movement and marijuana legalization and medical marijuana legalization movements, you know, in a sense, since their inception.
What's that been like for the family? Has it been a problem, or?
Well,
I'm sure you've.
For the most part, no. When I was a kid, I thought it was really cool, you know, because it was like the '60s, and you know, I was too young to go to Woodstock, but I remember being pissed that I couldn't go. You know, I was like 9. But my older cousins were going, and our dad wrote a book about marijuana, and we thought that was really cool. But then when he found out that we were smoking pot, of course he got pissed off. But it was more like he was pissed off that we were being sneaky, not that like it was evil. But you know, but he was definitely pissed. So in a certain sense, that's like any childhood. It's like I got busted by Lester, you know, and it was just as bad as getting busted by any other dad, probably, you know.
Interesting.
But you know, that was then, and this is now, and we've long had, you know, had many a smoke together to talk it over, you know. But as far as problems, not really. I mean, you know, Lester had some problems. Career-wise, as far as like, oh, he never made full professor at Harvard, but I don't think he really gives a shit about that. And you know, I think it's really more like the joke's on the academy than on him, because he recognizes how little the world is of you know, the people that really care about shit like that. And in fact, there's some specific stories, which I won't get into now here, of specific individuals who basically blocked his promotion at Harvard because you know, he was controversial or whatever, you know, because he was this radical you know, marijuana legalization proponent, you know, God forbid at Harvard, you know, but it didn't really hurt his career at all, and in fact, you know, to the extent that there's a lot of people that are interested in hearing what he has to say about it, you know, it's been, you know, hasn't sucked in other ways, you know, he's working on an issue that he's passionate about and has people that are interested in what he has to say and he's contributing to things, and so that's probably adds up to more fulfillment than being a full professor at Harvard, if you know what I'm saying. And you know, I think our phone was tapped when we were kids, you know, and there was, and there continues to be the question of like, well, how much do the feds hate Lester and how much are they, you know, there's been a couple times when things happen where we were like, well, gee, I wonder if somebody's trying to set him up, and you know, shit like that. But not a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's definitely been a component, you know. Anyways, that's probably a longer answer to that question than you expected.
Well, I'm thinking, I mean, he's done some pretty heroic things, I mean, many of which I'm not even aware of. I mean, right now I think he's dealing with the Supreme Court on the issue and putting all that together and being involved.
Yeah, he just submitted an amicus brief to the Supreme Court for this case about medical marijuana and states' rights versus federal intrusiveness. It's pretty interesting what's going on, actually.
And I mean, I wonder how many people would be in jail, you know, or even executed. I mean, he's gone to foreign countries and pulled people off of death row for we're going to be executed for marijuana.
Yeah, he's been involved in some pretty interesting cases, including, for instance, you're probably in your comment just now thinking about he went to I guess it was Kuala Lumpur to help this young man who was going to be put to death, who actually was using marijuana in, you know, at least in part for a medical condition, and was getting relief from it, and he managed to help save that guy's life, and in the process he almost got thrown in jail himself in Kuala Lumpur. He actually got threatened. He was told he was going to be jailed. And you know, he wasn't, but I think it was a hairy trip. And he's been involved in a lot of other trials, but I think probably, who knows, maybe in terms of influence and helping keep people from getting jailed unjustly for drugs, it's possible that his books maybe have done even more in that direction just by giving people you know, some sort of a reference to use in trying to establish that point of view, you know, as opposed to the more superstitious or irrational viewpoints about drugs that are rampant in our society.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any memories of anything that over the years, situations that you know, like you were a little boy and your dad was, I don't know what, or your mom and dad?
Well, I remember when my parents were first, well, I don't know about first, but when smoking pot was like was definitely like a new experience for them. And they didn't think we knew about it. And like spying on them, like getting high and laughing, and like, you know, then we were like laughing and having a good time, and you know, spying on them getting high. I definitely remember that. There was one time down in, we took a trip to Puerto Rico. No, this trip, it was actually to Trinidad and Tobago. Puerto Rico was with my grandparents. That was entirely different. Trinidad and Tobago with the Sagans. So my parents and me and my brother Danny, who's no longer alive, and Carl and his then wife Linda, and Carl's two kids from his first marriage, Dorian Sagan and Jeremy Sagan, who were both really good friends of me and Danny, my brother. And so the parents, you know, were good friends, and the kids were good friends. It was kind of a cool trip, actually. We went and stayed in this cottage in Tobago and hung out on the beach and stuff. But one very distinct memory of that trip is one night the kids